What up, YouTube? So last night's stream I deleted because I got off topic, but I'm sure someone saved it, so like it matters. For starters, I don't really do cocaine anymore because it's too expensive and I don't want it to be a habit. And because these days you don't know what the fuck they're lacing that shit with, man. So that's why I just stick to like weed and alcohol, you know. What up, GMT? Just drinking some water, cause holy shit. Mm, stay hydrated. How you cool Cobras doing? I watched a new episode of South Park last night. It was pretty freaking funny, I will say that. I posted a short about it on my YouTube channel. Yepers. Excuse me. I don't discuss all the friends that I make on YouTube, to be honest. And it's for good reason, you know. But ugh, fuck. Yeah, I slept until like 10, almost 11, and I'm like, I'm sweating from the heat, and I'm like, I need some water. Yep. Mm. Get some more water. Ugh. Ugh, shit. Because really, realistically, you don't need cocaine to have a good time, you really don't. I've done it, it's fun, but like these days, you don't know what the fuck it's laced with. Back in the day, when I did it, I knew what it was laced with, and it wasn't nothing like harder shit. People could be lacing their cocaine with meth and fentanyl and shit like that, and then handing it to you, going, "Here you go, have fun," and then you do the whole thing and die, and it's like, fuck that, dude, fuck that. Yeah, jeez. Hmm. If I'm good on the alcohol, man, goddamn.
One of the things I tell young men, well, and young women as well, but the young men really need to hear this more, I think. You should be a monster, an absolute monster, and then you should learn how to control it. So a man who's capable of aggression but has it under control is a way more useful man than one who cannot do that. And so you're willing to go get a job, but you're terrified of an interview. It's like, there's a dragon for you.
Well, I officially returned to my show from vacation today, which means that in preparation for this event, I had to make my official return to Twitter yesterday. I had only ventured, back into that overflowing cyber septic tank for a few hours before my name was trending. And I thought that at first, I was trending because everybody was welcoming me back with well wishes and warm salutations and all that. But it turns out that most of the messages were considerably less friendly. I guess that's no surprise on second thought. The conversation seemed to revolve around a brief argument that I had with J.K. Rowling on Sunday, because, of course, the first thing that I do when I come back from vacation and I'm really well rested is I pick a fight with a random famous person. But before we get to that, we need to back up all the way to ancient history, which was last Tuesday, when I was still out fishing and the singer Macy Gray was igniting a media firestorm by controversially suggesting that women exist. So during her appearance on Piers Morgan, where I think she was promoting an album or something like that, the conversation kind of drifted to the topic of gender, and Morgan posed the ultimate question, of course, the question of our generation, which Gray had at first no trouble answering at all. I'm sure you've heard this clip already, but let's play it again just for our own enjoyment. Here it is. If I asked you what a woman is, what would you say?
Let's say a human being with boobs. You can start there.
Yeah, I mean, the dictionary is quite straightforward. It just says
And
a
a
human,
vagina.
adult, female,
Yeah.
right?
Now a lot of people, yeah, see that's a little getting confusing. The whole he, she, they, that's getting
And I'm not sure why, really. It's a bit like this whole issue of transgenders in sport. Because I support all trans rights to fairness and equality.
Me too.
But not where you have people born to obvious physical superior bodies.
Me too.
Transitioning and then thrashing the women at their sport.
I totally agree. And I will say this, and everybody's going to hate me, but as a woman, just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman.
Right.
Sorry.
You feel that?
I know that for a fact. Like, if you want me to call you a her, I will, because that's what you want. But that doesn't make you a woman just because I call you a her and just because you got a surgery.
So thus began the usual circus routine. After saying this objectively true and normal thing, Gray was reviled by the left, slammed as a transphobe and a bigot, and she's marginalizing and erasing trans people through her refusal to allow women to be marginalized and erased. That's basically the accusation. And meanwhile, on the other side of it, the right hailed her as a hero, a courageous warrior, triumphing over cancel culture. She was applauded for standing firm and being bold in the face of the backlash. But the applause, as is almost always the case, unfortunately, came too soon. Gray made it all of about 3 days before buckling. And on Thursday of the very same week, the singer made the traditional pilgrimage to a morning TV show to express her deep regrets and sorrow and to beg for absolution. She explained that over the previous couple of days, the experience of having a bunch of blue-haired freaks screaming at her had been very educational and it had been very enlightening. She'd learned a lot from the blue-haired freaks. That's my words, not hers. I'm paraphrasing. In fact, she'd learned that everything she thought she knew about the world was wrong. Biology is a myth, and that she, as a woman, doesn't actually exist. She learned all of this in 2 or 3 days. And they had taught her this by crying and screaming. It was the most...
Okay, first of all, the chick on Piers Morgan, that's what's up. But like freaking... Okay, here's the thing of it. This is what gets me. The lady who said that literally said, Piers Morgan says to you, what defines a woman? And she said, well, a person with boobs. And then Piers Morgan said, that's pretty straightforward. But some women never develop boobs. Some women lose them to like vasectomies and breast cancer and shit. So I think defining a woman is so much deeper than just her boobs and her vagina. But that's just me personally. And then she goes on to say that just because, you heard what she said. And I'm like, doesn't that kind of make you backtrack your statement just a little bit? Because didn't you just say that a woman is defined by a person who has boobs? And then she said what she said. And it was just like, so then what is a woman? Because, and that's the question a lot of people ask. And, I'm going to rewind that just a little bit.
Couple of days, the experience of having a bunch of blue-haired freaks screaming.
Like, I randomly had a moment of puking, and I was just like, oh, that was weird. Getting hydrated, drinking some water. And I felt myself having to throw up, so I ran to the trash can and made it there just in time. Then I was like, okay, what the fuck?
Screaming at her had been very educational and it had been very enlightening. She'd learned a lot from the blue haired freaks.
I totally agree. And
I support all trans rights to fairness and equality,
me too.
but not where you have people born to obvious physical superior bodies
Me too.
transitioning and then thrashing the women at their sport.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at, man. I totally support trans rights, but when you got dudes who were born with testosterone, these dudes who are like 300 pounds of sheer male muscle. You know, speaking of South Park, I'm totally reminded of the Strong Woman episode where PC Principal just loses his shit because he's always so politically correct. But it's like, bro, he's trying to stand up for biological women, you get called a transphobe. You stand up for transgendered women, you get called a sexist towards biological women. And it's just one of those things where it's like, what do what do? You support them both to the best of your ability within reason, I guess.
I agree. And I will say this, and everybody's going to hate me, but as a woman, just because you go change your parts doesn't make you a woman.
Right.
Sorry.
You feel that?
I know that for a fact. Like, if you want me to call you a her, I will, because that's what you want. But that doesn't make you a woman just because I call you a her and just because you got a surgery.
So, thus began the usual circus routine. After saying this objectively true and normal thing, Gray was reviled by the left, slammed as a transphobe and a bigot, and she's marginalizing and erasing trans people through her refusal to allow women to be marginalized and erased.
The word marginalized, like you cannot stand up for trans women without saying you're just marginalizing regular women. So you try to stand up for them, and now you're marginalizing trans people. It's like at some point you just have to say, can't we all just get along? As long as you're in a sick fuck who gives a shit.
That's basically the accusation. And meanwhile, on the other side of it, the right hailed her as a hero, a courageous warrior, triumphing over cancel culture. She was applauded for standing firm and being bold in the face of the backlash. But the applause, as is almost always the case, unfortunately, came too soon. Gray made it all of about 3 days before buckling. And on Thursday of the very same week, the singer made the traditional pilgrimage to a morning TV show to express her deep regrets and sorrow and to beg for absolution. She explained that over the previous couple of days, the experience of having a bunch of blue-haired freaks screaming at her had been very educational and it had been very enlightening. She'd learned a lot from the blue-haired freaks. That's my words, not hers. I'm paraphrasing. In fact, she learned that everything she thought she knew about the world was wrong. Biology is a myth, and that she, as a woman, doesn't actually exist. She learned all of this in 2 or 3 days.
Okay, so according to that group of people, biology does not exist, and that she, as a woman, does not exist. So then why do they identify as women when they transition? I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just asking questions. If biology does not exist and that women are no longer a thing, then why should we be forced to call them women when they transition? Why is it that they choose to identify as a woman when they transition? Oh, but biology doesn't exist. Biology doesn't exist. Unless, of course, they're non-binary, then hey, no judgment either. But again, I'm not trying to be a dick, just trying to ask questions. If biology does not exist, then why are you forcing everyone to call you a woman when you transition? If biology doesn't exist. Or maybe it does exist and you're just using it to fit your special narrative. It leaves people confused, going, what? Scratching their heads and their faces going, that doesn't make sense. And I'm not trying to be a dick. I'm just trying to better understand how this side thinks. Because as somebody who's not even a part of that community, I can't begin to imagine how hard it must be, Like, I'm white, I'm autistic, I'm cisgendered, and I'm straight. So, you know, for of age women that are alive and cisgendered and also straight, and you know, like I've had a girlfriend that was bisexual or two. I've had two girls that I dated that were bi, and yeah, they're fun. You know, but that's beside the point.
And they had taught her this by crying and screaming. It was the most
Probably not. They probably just sat down and had a nice lengthy chat with her.
educational temper tantrum she'd ever witnessed, apparently. Let's watch that.
I never, of course, meant to hurt anybody with what I said.
Now she has to retract her statement and apologize because she offended trans people. And it's like, yeah, I mean, you know, biological women, they develop their boobs through puberty and they get made fun of, because one's bigger than the other. And, and they don't really like grow into their breast size until college kind of thing. And they get made fun of by these stuck up little cunts who are also going through puberty. Like, puberty for girls is so much harder than it is for guys. And like, this is the problem with it. Like, yeah, you want to stand up for women's rights 100%, but you also want to stand up for trans rights. And I agree with Pierce Morgan in the sense of, yeah, if you want to be trans, I'll support you 100%. But, it's a bit unfair to have some dude who's benefited from testosterone for almost half of his life. Now he has a distinct advantage over the competition. Whereas, like, if you're a trans woman and you're like, you want a pair of boobs, you can get a perfect pair of tits after you pay the money. You don't have to, like, develop it slowly over time, go through getting made fun of because of your boob size. No, they get made fun of because they're trans. So that's kind of the catch-21 of it, really.
I'm actually a huge, I think it takes a lot of courage to be yourself, to go out in the world and be honest about who you are. And so I think anyone who is in the LGBT community is a hero and sets an example for all of us with that, So I said some things that
yeah, you might have said some things that pissed off the LGBTQ plus, but here's the kicker of it: you even have LGBTQ plus fighting amongst each other. Like, wait, what? Hold up, I've seen it. I've seen videos on the topic, and I'm just like, dude, seriously? I mean, the trans people inspired Daphne to commit suicide because Dave Chappelle shared her story and she thinks Dave Chappelle's funny. And it's like, you want to be treated just like everybody else. Dave Chappelle makes fun of everybody, but he can't make fun of you because that makes him a bigot. I'm like, wait a minute. A gay black man can make fun of everybody and everything, but the second he brings up the T word, and I'm like, Daphne was able to laugh at herself and be like, you know what? He's including me. And you know what she said? Thank you for including me and making me a part of the show. If that sounds like the least most transphobic thing I've ever seen, and yet I don't know. It's not just trans people, dude. There are people out there who just want to be offended. It's 2022. There are just people out there who want to be offended. They wake up in the morning going, what can I be offended by today? Oh my God, am I breathing? Oh my God, you guys, I'm breathing. That's offensive to people with COPD. I'm so mad at myself right now. I need to check my fucking lung privilege. But
didn't go over well. But my intention was never to hurt anybody. I feel bad that I did hurt some people. And I think
No, of course it wasn't your intention to hurt anyone. You were just speaking up from your side of things as a cisgendered female. And the thing you have to understand is that LGBTQ plus have been discriminated against for decades. And now that cisgendered people who have nothing to do with it, cisgendered straight folks who had nothing to do with it, are being thrown underneath the bus now. And it's just like, well, that ain't right neither. If it's about true equality, then why can't cisgendered and straight people be a part of the LGBTQ? You know? So lesbian, gay, transsexual, bisexual, queer, asexual, straight, cisgendered, non-binary. I don't know. I'm reading too much into it. Honestly, I care because I know people who are a part of the LGBTQ plus, and it's a very sensitive topic, YouTube. Like, and this isn't all trans people, so don't get it twisted, but I'm cool with trans people, man, as long as you ain't abusing the politically correct system we live in.
it's just about education. It's about conversation and us getting to a point where we
That's the problem, is we cannot have a fucking conversation about anything without someone calling you some kind of phobe or bigot.
understand each other and
Like,
that
you want to have a conversation? Can we have a conversation like mature adults? Or like, okay, this is your opinion, well, this is my opinion. You know? Probably not.
only happens with I've learned a lot through this. So I think that was one of the reasons it might happen. Just it was a huge learning experience for me. You know what? I think you can, like I said in there, you can call you.
So she went from being on Pierce Morgan's show to NBC News. And that's good that she educated herself and she learned a lot. That makes less bigots in the world, to be honest.
What, like you whoever.
But in my defense, I'm not trying to be a dick, but in my defense, you try to understand the whole pronoun thing, and it gets to a point where it's super confusing. You got people on TikTok who identify as demons just for the shock value of it because they think they're demons or whatever. And it's like, do you even practice demonic magic? Oh, you don't. You just like dressing goth and pissing off your parents and right-wing assholes. Yeah. That's kind of funny because when I was a kid and I started getting into like witchcraft and shit, and identifying as a cobra demon, my parents were not having it. They thought I was mental. They took me to head doctors. They're like, "Oh, Josh thinks he has powers." No, I love my parents very much, but it's like, now you got people who identify as demons, and that's their pronouns. And if you don't say that, then you're a bigot. And me, I'm like, I'm not that big into it. Like, you don't have to call me the Grand Cobra Demon or whatever. Fuck all that. Like, I don't care. You can call me Josh or Cobra. I don't care, dude. I was just making a point.
Believe you are, and no one can dictate that for you or take that away from you. You know.
I think life is an education process.
But you did kind of contradict yourself on the Pierce Morgan show, love. When Pierce Morgan said, "Well, what is your definition of a woman?" And she said, "A person who has boobs." And then she turned around and said, "Well, just because you're a man and you change your parts doesn't mean, all of a sudden it's like, well, didn't you just get done saying it's a person with boobs? So which is it, So, like, yeah, she backtracked a little bit.
Yes, the more you sit with people, the more you talk to people, it changes your perspective. So has your perspective changed, do you feel?
I've learned so much, and I think being a woman is a vibe, and it's something I'm very proud of. And
being a woman is a vibe. It's just a vibe. It's like, what kind of fucking drugs are you on?
Very precious to me, and I think that if you in your heart feel that that's what you are, then that's what you are, regardless of what anybody says or thinks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but I could say I'm Tony Hawk. It doesn't make it true.
Well, it's a good thing, you know, that all the groveling bases were covered there. She didn't skip any of the steps. She was very thorough in that way. The script was followed with precision. And though we've grown so accustomed to seeing this pageant of humiliation play out,
As somebody who's been made fun of for dressing goth, you know, that's why I don't bully trans or LGBTQ plus. I get so much crap for just doing my thing, and I'm not even a part of that other community, you know?
never gets any easier to watch, at least not for me anyway. Each time I feel like I'm watching somebody cut their own heart out of their chest. It's grotesque and disgusting and humiliating, but weirdly fascinating. You're just kind of glued to the screen watching this sick display. And you can't look away as much as you want to because we know the steps here. Step one, the penitent claims that she's learned a lot and she's been educated. That's the necessary first step. Never explains what she's learned exactly or how she learned it or exactly what insights her critics offered to her. That's because there was no insight, unless guttural screaming and demonic convulsing counts as an insight. I don't know. And then step two, she flatters the rage mob. You know, she lays down her offerings at their feet. She bows before them in worship, adoring them, declaring in this case that
Now, I'm not trying to be a dick, but can you see this from a cisgendered female's perspective? Women have had to fight for centuries for rights. YouTube. Women did not start to become as radical until people like Rosie the Riveter, you know? When women are being told by men to shut up, learn your place, fetch the pipe and slippers, and make me a martini and a sandwich, kind of, you know, that's that stereotypical, you know, 1950s housewife thing, degrading as shit. You know, and then all of a sudden the 60s come up and like women from that generation are going, you know what? No, get your own damn pipe, you asshole. You know, and it starts this thing called women's liberation. You know, they're sick and tired of men taking away women's rights, and now it feels like to women, now they have rights. Now it's like men are now taking away their identity, and if you don't call them by their proper pronouns, you're now a part of the problem. But you have to understand it from LGBTQ's perspective, is they've also been discriminated and made fun of and ridiculed and treated like shit as well. Like women, blacks, LGBTQ plus minorities have been treated like crap for ages. YouTube, and then all of a sudden it's like everyone has rights. Now it's like, well, okay, we got what we wanted. Now what do we do? Let's start to bully the white straight people that are cisgendered because we're bored and hypocrites. And I'm like, look, that's not gonna, you know, if you want people, and then when that doesn't work and they get bored of that, then they start bullying each other. Now it's like you got trans people fighting with lesbian people because now cisgendered lesbian women are going, they don't want to be a part of LGBTQ anymore, because if a trans woman asks them out and they reject her on the basis of you're not cisgendered, that lesbian gets called a bigot, even though she's a part of a community that celebrates tolerance. It's ironically super, super intolerant. And it's like, you know, if you don't want to date trans people, that's cool. Just don't be a dick about it. As long as you're not going out of your way to bully them because they're trans. That's the difference, YouTube. Fuck's sake.
everybody in the LGBT community is a hero, all of them. Because, of course, it requires true heroism to belong to the most protected, privileged, and coddled and applauded group of people to ever exist on planet Earth. That
The reason why they get what they have now, Mr. Matt Walsh, I just got done explaining this. If you came out as a gay, transgender, non-binary, they, them in the 1950s, they would have locked your ass up in a fucking mental institution and performed lobotomies on your fucking eye sockets and electrocuted you. So, I don't mind some of Matt Walsh's talking points, but as somebody who has a transgendered fan or two, I'm like, eh. And it sounds like Matt Walsh is just pissed off because straight whites are no longer coddled and protected like they used to be. Ooh.
requires heroism to do that. And then step 3, she finally.
And it's extremely brave because we live in a society that is so racist and homophobic and sexist. And like, you think it's 2022, like, you think at some point, oh, hey, it's 2022, the discrimination is going to stop. But no, even in the LGBTQ community, they fight amongst themselves on who's more special. And then it's just like, wow, okay. So it's just a shit show all around. And then you got these assholes, these sick fucks, who are like, well, if that person can identify as trans, then why can't they identify as a dog fucker? Because there's a difference, you moron. Don't even get me started.
Renounces all of her past beliefs. She renounces reality and truth itself. She renounces her own existence.
I renounce Jesus Christ in the name of Satan. Lucifer, Satan.
Proclaiming that, contrary to what she had always thought up until about breakfast time that morning, there is no objective or biological basis to womanhood. Being a woman is, as she put it, a vibe. It's just a vibe. A woman isn't anything, but if you feel like you are one.
Could you imagine if a man had said this? Oh, he would be hailed by a cancel culture lynch mob. There'd be pitchforks with flaming tampons lit on fire going, down with the patriarchy. You'd be hearing women as far as Calcutta going, down with the patriarchy. Like, women in a Western culture want to talk about how oppressed they are because there's this social standard that women are supposed to shave their fucking pits. No one in a Western world gives a shit, honey. You want to talk about oppression? Go live in the fucking Middle East underneath Sharia law. Like, that's the only reason I don't like Muslims, because of Sharia law and the way they treat their women and the way they treat gays, but that's neither here nor there.
Are one, and what you are is nothing. All women are nothing, and everybody is invited to join them in their nothingness. Now, of course, if being a woman is just a vibe, then it doesn't really make a lot of sense for men to take drugs or get surgeries as part of their transition process. There is no such thing as a vibe surgery. You can't surgically implant or remove a vibe, right? You can't go to the doctor and say, I want to have a certain vibe. Can you give me a certain? That doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't.
If it's all about the vibe, if it's about the feeling, then the whole gender transition industry makes no sense, and it's built on a false premise. So it turns out that either way, whether the claims made by gender ideology are wrong or right, the whole process of gender transition is nonsensical and false. Either way. But
I would disagree on that. It's their choice. As long as they ain't being creepy or sicko about it, who cares?
We cannot expect the proponents of this idea to notice these kinds of contradictions or care about them if they do notice them. This all brings us back to the beginning of our story. I criticized Macy Gray for, on Twitter for being a gutless coward, which is what she is. And after some pushback to
It's not about being a gutless coward. It's about educating yourself. And okay, if you're a musician or a celebrity and you're very accustomed and comfortable to the money and the fame and all that, you don't want to lose all that because of some shit you said on Twitter. So, and really it's just about being a decent person, you know.
and I tweeted this. I said, sorry, but women who publicly renounce the definition of woman for fear of mean comments from trans activists deserve all the scorn they get. That kind of gutless cowardice is exactly what got us into this position in the first place.
Holy crap. Matt Walsh is, of course, very much conservative. I don't think it's gutless. I think it's just, like men who are used to being men their entire life, all of a sudden, it's like this culture shock, this thing where it's like, oh crap, now you're a woman. Now you're experiencing new things like having tits, your back hurting because of your boobs, estrogen, having to do all these things to keep your vagina clean, things that women normally go through. So for a lot of men who transition, it can be extremely overwhelming. At times they will regret it. At sometimes they'll detransition because they can't handle it or they realize they made a huge mistake. And it's like, to some degree, women know how that feels. Even if you're not trans, like you've grown up as a cisgendered woman, you know exactly what it's like to have these problems. So it's not them backing down so much as it's them just being like, hey, look, struggle's real, sister, kind of thing. At least that's how I see it. Like maybe she's like, and that's been my whole shtick is like, you want to and I'm all for letting trans people perform in sports, but they should have their own trans league. That's what I think. Like this should be a separate division. That way it's fair. It's completely unfair to let dudes who are like Heather Swanson from South Park, who used to be strong man. And that's exactly, the episode of South Park, Strong Woman, that's exactly how it is, too. Speaking of South Park, check out Streaming Wars Part 2, Paramount Plus. That's what's up. But yeah, YouTube, Cartman flashing his fake tits at the end was kind of disturbing, to say the least, but that's neither here nor there. This would be like if a woman had transitioned into a man because she truly identified as that, and plus she might think that secretly men have it easier. But then when she does do that, all of a sudden nobody kisses her ass because they want some pussy. No one holds the door for her. They just expect they, them, him, however they identify, to toughen up and be a man. And all of a sudden it's like, whoa, it's a culture shock, For me personally, I would sympathize with them and be like, hey, being a man can suck sometimes, but it gets better, So I don't know. I try to be independent and open-minded about a lot of things, except for sickos and shit like that, and murderers and psychopaths and serial killers. Fuck all that shit.
That's what I said. Okay. Now, a little while later, J.K. Rowling, who famously has stood up courageously against the trans mob, responded to me with a defense of Gray and of others.
She's not standing up against the trans mob, you fucking morons. Here we go with this. Some fucking asshole, and okay, here's how the story started. Oh my god, I swear, dude. I might have to grab a nope, it's not. It's only 10 o'clock, almost 11. Nope. I'll wait till 5 because I'm working on my drinking. Okay. nah, I'm cool. I can wait till 5, but only because I'm choosing to, and because I don't want to end up like Ozzy Osbourne or like Ron White, where I'm so addicted to it that I have to go to rehab to quit. You know what I'm saying? That's just no. It's a personal choice. You can drink and have a good time, but like you don't have to be plastered all the fucking time, and that's just it. You realize that drinking is not going to make your problems go away. It's just it temporarily numbs them. It temporarily helps you forget. That's not why I drink. I drink because I like the feeling it gives me. The buzz from alcohol is, but the side effects that go with it, like I woke up early this morning and I'm like, nah, I'm not getting out of bed just yet. Let me just sleep in for a little bit. Uh, then I got up and it was like, well, grab me a glass of water and get hydrated. And that's the thing of it, YouTube. It's just like you see people you idolize, comedians and musicians and what have you, and I'm not going to completely quit smoking because if I quit cigarettes, I'd be the crankiest fucking asshole on the planet. But I can make this pack last 4 days instead of going through it in one day. It's like, eh, you know, but that's beside the point.
And who have similarly folded like cheap lawn chairs. Rowling tweeted in response to me, she said,
Okay, what started as Scotland being like, okay, if you are arrested, like a lot of other like California, for instance, in California and Scotland and different parts of the countries and worlds and all that shit, if you hypothetically rape a bunch of women, you can identify as a trans woman and get thrown into a female's prison with your dick still able to get hard and still intact. And basically, like a goddamn fox in a hen house, if you catch my drift. And at some point, the only way you're going to learn your lesson is if a bunch of women gang up on you in that prison and then anally rape you with like a mop handle or some shit, and it's against your will. Then you're like, ah. But for the most part, you know what I'm saying? Do you think a dude who rapes like 12 women and then identifies as trans at the last moment because he doesn't want to get ass raped in prison by men in his own gender's prison? So the cowardly piece of shit takes advantage of trans rights and gay rights and all that, just to do just pulling that crap, and then now it's like, well, no, okay, we don't want the cancel mob on us. We don't want the cancel mob on us. And naturally, J.K. Rowling's going to stick up for this because it's an abuse of trans rights and just overall human rights. And now people are attacking J.K. Rowling as some kind of transphobic bitch. And I'm like, wow. And no one ever stops and thinks, hey, this is making your community look bad. This is making your LGBTQ look bad. But instead of looking at it like that, oh, no. Hey, you guys, oh my God. J.K. Rowling is such a phobe. South Park, I'm giving you a Stan look right now.
For a long time, cans were the only thing available for emergency food supplies, but now there's a better way. Ready?
endless death threats and rape threats, threats of loss of livelihood, employers.
And that's the problem with it, is that people who are trans get bullied and picked on way worse than I do. And J.K. Rowling's getting death and rape threats and loss of livelihood, employers targeted, physical harassment, family address is posted online with pictures of bomb making manual aren't mean comments. That's what kills me about this issue. It's like you have trans people who are saying, I'm so sick and tired of being discriminated and bullied. So when J.K. Rowling sticks up for your rights and for women's rights by saying, hey, this is fucked up, instead of looking at it like I just got done saying, it's like, hey, this affects you people. This makes your shit look bad. It's, oh no, J.K. Rowling's a transphobe. And so what do? The biggest hypocrisy. They dox her address. They threaten her life. They try to cancel culture Harry Potter. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. Dumbledore was gay. Y'all got some representation in that bitch, but no, that's not enough. Speaking as somebody who's had my addresses doxed before in the past, yeah, they doxed my old address at my old apartment, and no one cared. That's how I got, you know what I'm saying? And like, I've had people give me death threats. I've had people threaten to rape me. I've had people tell me to fucking kill myself because I'm such a piece of shit person. I've had people fucking like physically try to cancel me because what I've said was controversial or taken in the wrong text. And I've gotten so many mean comments and people just saying all kinds of fucked up shit to me that I'm completely desensitized to it at this point. So I'm not just sticking up for J.K. Rowling because I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, but, you know, people are reading between the lines and it's like... No, I'm working on my drinking because I want to, not because anyone else is, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a personal choice, you know? I actually do have alcoholics in my family. The ones that I'm speaking of were not at the reunion, but, dude, you know, and it's just... And for me, it's a personal choice. Like, if you're sitting there trying to get a 12-pack of beer a day and then drinking the whole 12-pack a day, it gets old after a while. Your kidneys hurt. You have to drink more to get a buzz. And, you know, it just gets expensive because you're spending more money to drink more, you know? So it's like, for me personally, I like to drink. And that's the thing about AAs. They don't teach you to drink responsibly. They just teach you to quit and force you to worship Jesus and all that stupid shit. If I had an alcoholics or like a drug rehabilitation clinic of my own, I would teach people to be more responsible with their habits and then perhaps offer them treatment and counseling and, you know, and be like, so why is it you drink so much? Let's get to the roots of your problem. And when you come to terms with that problem and you have that power in yourself, the belief in yourself to just change, you know, because no one else is going to make you change. That's the fucking fact. But J.K. Rowling fires off a tweet at Matt Walsh and literally says, endless death and rape threats of loss of livelihood, employers targeted, physical harassment, family address posted online with pictures of bomb-making manuals aren't mean comments. If you don't yet understand what happens to women who stand up on this issue, back off. Exactly my fucking point. Could you imagine, though, if it were gender reversed? Okay? And like women were able to, if women were born with natural strength that made them tougher than men, like if having estrogen made you physically tougher than men, you know, it'd be a different story. You'd hear Matt Walsh going, well, this is irreprehensible. I can't believe blah, 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 you know. The kind of crap that women go through because they are a woman. Okay, menopause, hysterectomies, periods, cramps. Jesus Christ, being a woman is so difficult. So for the life of me, I can't imagine why the fuck anyone would want to identify as one or transition into one, but I'm not here to judge. You know, like, and that's just it. If you want me to call you a woman, then, and you identify as such, then I will do it. I will gladly say, hey, you know what? You're doing your thing, and that's your pronouns. I can respect it. As long as you ain't a sick fuck and you ain't raping people and taking advantage of the system, you know? Fucking hate sickos, dude. And this just comes down to a typical guy speaking up on women's issues when his only bias on the issue is he's Republican and he hates trans people. That's the conservative way, you know. That being said, you want to attract the ladies. I honestly don't know if tactical soap works on trans women, to be honest. And I quite frankly don't care. I just know that if you're a woman and you have estrogen, yeah, you want to attract the ladies using coupon code KingCobra, link description box below. If you're a lesbian couple or a straight couple and you want to use tactical soap to spice up your love life, yeah. All right. That being said, like I said, I support trans rights 100%. I'm very progressive and very much independent. I'm split down the middle on a lot of issues. But when it comes to things like marijuana, I'm very much Democrat. And when it comes to gun rights, I'm very much Republican. When it comes to abortion rights, I lean towards more Democrat on that. When it comes to trans rights, I try to see both sides of the argument to some degree because Republicans generally hate this kind of crap. It's just a stereotype. If you know, not all conservatives are homophobic, transphobic asswipes, but you know. If anything, I would ask cisgendered women to be a bit more compassionate when it comes to trans women, even though it's horseshit to some extent, and there's some unfair bullshit that goes with it. No disrespect, but that's how it is. You know what I'm saying? Like, there are assholes who take advantage of this crap, and it pisses me off. I have like little mama's trans, you know. I have people that I know that are gay, lesbian, non-binary, and quite frankly, I don't appreciate these assholes not only taking advantage of women's rights but also trans rights. Yeah, hold up 1 second, YouTube. The one I poured from last night. But I know I'm a liar. I'm all for supporting trans and gay rights, but that doesn't mean we got to start taking away the rights of everyone else. Because at the end of the day, that is what equality is all about. And the problem with that is, 1 second, let's sip on this real quick. Mm. and casually sip on this drink throughout the day, but I'm not gonna have any more until 5. Which, if you watch me on YouTube the last couple of months, that's really good considering. Like, it got to a point where even I recognized in myself I was ignoring all of my fans and family because the trolls would sit there and talk all this shit. So I was like, fuck you, I do what I want. I'm a grown ass man. But me personally, it was like, fuck all that. I appreciate the fact that my family and my fans care and fuck the trolls kind of thing. But like I said earlier, when it starts getting expensive and you're not getting as drunk as quickly as you'd like.
Targeted physical harassment, family addresses posted online with pictures of bomb-making aren't mean comment.
I've had people like right before I went to my family reunion, which was awesome. The only people that were at my family reunion were my grandma Sandy, my granddad Al, and my dad's sister and her kids, and a couple other cool people that I hung out with. And it was a nice time. Everyone was, it was just a wonderful family reunion. I got to meet some of my cousin's friends that came with, and it was just a wonderful time, YouTube, full of laughter and smiles. And, it was a good time. I thoroughly enjoyed my family reunion. I even offered to buy alcohol for the 4th of July, but my granddad Al and my dad paid for it. And then my granddad Al looked at me with the kind of, look, like, oh, my grandson's King Cobra JFS. And he's like, we bought a shit ton of alcohol. It was more than enough to last us those 3 days. Like, by the time, shit, with nobody drinking during the day and then waiting till 5 o'clock in the evening to have a drink, it lasted us. Like, by the time we got done with the vacation, all the alcohol was gone, but that's neither here nor there.
If you don't yet understand what happens to women who stand up on this issue, back off, she said, talking to me. Now, lots of other feminists in the so-called
And no, you're not going to understand what the issue is, Matt Walsh. No offense, but you're a dude. You're a cisgendered white dude. As am I. So it's like, who's straight? I don't give a fuck if Matt Walsh is gay or not. I don't fucking care. Like, it's beside the point. I really don't care.
Camp, or the gender critical camp, as they prefer to call themselves, most of them, they've echoed and agreed with this sentiment.
Yeah, but gender critical, if gender does not exist and if according to these individuals, some of them will claim that, wait for this, gender is a social abstract concept and does not exist. And it's like, then why do you say you identify as the opposite sex if gender is just a vibe or a concept? And again, I'm not trying to be a dick about this. I'm just trying to better understand it, because I'm confused on this issue. Like, people are always going off like, "Hey, Cobra, what's your take on this?" And I'm like, great.
I'm rallying. In fact, I've heard this from feminists quite a lot since my film came out. That it's easy for me. They say, I don't know what it's like. Okay, I don't have to make the same kind of sacrifices. I don't put the same things on the line. I don't get treated the same way. Nobody attacks me the way they attack women who speak out. And now Ralph.
And honestly, I'm pretty sure people have attacked Matt Walsh for his controversial opinions.
Whose courage on this
issue. People are just so full of shit. We're all a bunch of self-righteous fucking hypocrites racing to our graves. Like, I hate how society is controlled by sex, money, greed, and hypocrisy. And hatred. So much fucking hatred in our society. Just people getting so upset over the littlest of things. You have to wonder if people are super autistic, because holy shit. And if you're getting upset for the right reasons, because You know, it's different if it's a part of your community and you got some right wing bigoted cocksucking asshole piece of shit attacking you because, you know.
Who as I said, I really respect, and I've said that many times, is singing the same tune. But she's completely wrong, of course. And it just shows how.
Oh, J.K. Rowling's wrong? Okay, please explain to me, Matt Walsh, how is Miss Rowling wrong? Have you had your address doxxed? God, why am I watching this crap? Like, I stand with J.K. Rowling on this, not just because I support women's rights and trans rights, not just because I'm a huge Harry Potter fan, but yeah, just gonna, like, as somebody, and because I've had harassment happen to me, like, I've had death threats happen to me. Like, going back to what I was saying, people were sending me death threats saying, we're going to come to your house on the 4th of July and rape you and murder you, Cobra. Be prepared. Get that butthole ready, boy. And just all kinds of fucked up shit. And it's like, of course they didn't show up. Because one, I wasn't here. And if they did, they tried to break into my apartment. My neighbor stopped them. So there you go. Thanks for that. That's how it played out. But
Feminists who criticize the trans agenda, even though they're right about the issue of transgenderism, they're still hamstrung and handicapped by left-wing identity politics and victimology. They can't accept an alliance with a man because they resent us for our perceived privilege. Even
yeah, no, but at the same time, if it were, I mean, he's not right. He's not wrong either, you know? There are some women who hate men so much that the idea of a trans woman just triggers them because if they call it out for what it is, and they don't like, oh my God, this is such a touchy subject, YouTube. So I'm trying to choose my words as carefully as I can. And it's like, yeah, it's extremely frustrating for women and trans alike, and they should. And it's like, hey, Matt Walsh, they're a chick, so it's like it shouldn't be an alliance with a dude. It's an alliance with transgendered women. And because they used to be dudes, that's why they have a problem with it. So, like I said, he's kind of right and kind of wrong.
it's a privilege they've completely invented in their head.
It's not privilege. Fucking check your male privilege, dude. It's not fucking privilege. You're just mad because, like I said, nobody gives a fuck if you're cisgendered, straight, or white. You know what I'm saying? No one cares. It's all about everyone else now. And then it's like, no, dude.
Because the fact is that nearly everything she describes, the things that I can't understand, supposedly, because they only happen to women, supposedly, they have happened to me with great frequency and ferocity, I would say, over the past month and before that, but especially over the past month. I've had many death threats. I've been doxxed many times. Okay, I don't.
So okay. So this is what kills me about it. If you have been doxxed and you know exactly how J.K. Rowling feels with all the death threats and shit, how the fuck is she wrong? Then you want to get pissed off when no one gives a shit about men's rights, or like when no one cares about what men think, but then turn around and say it's all the Democrats and their fucking stupid libtard bullshit. Like, fuck you. It's the truth. Like, you want people to give a fuck about us men? You want, you know what I'm saying? And all that? Then would it kill you to give a fuck about their rights?
The thing is, I don't talk about these things a lot. I mention them here and there. I don't spend a lot of time talking about them. but I can assure you they are happening. I've been threatened, harassed, insulted. They've tried to deplatform me. They've tried to get me fired. They've tried to get my advertisers to boycott me, et cetera, and so forth, over and over and over again. I don't doubt at all that trans activists are vicious monsters towards any woman who defies them. But the operative aspect there is defies them, not women. They cannot tolerate defiance from anyone. The survival of their fragile worldview, as we've seen, depends on silencing all of the opposition, no matter who it's coming from. Doesn't matter if it's the idea that if it's coming from a white conservative man that they're going to lay off. No, he's good. He's one of the good ones. Let's leave him alone. It's just, it's hilarious. But here's the thing. If I had over the past month, or any time in the future, cave to the mob and pull a Macy Gray, I would deserve scorn too. Endless amounts of it. Okay? I would I'm telling you right now, if I ever were to do that, you should scorn me and despise me for that. Now, it's not going to happen. I can assure you of that.
I can assure you that not all conservatives are dickheads. He's right about that. But
because I would quite literally rather be dead than surrender to these people. I'd rather take a bullet to the head than debase myself the way Macy Gray did. And it wouldn't even be a difficult.
It's not about debasing yourself. It's about educating yourself. You would not be saying this crap if you were trans. If the shoe was on the other foot, my guy, you wouldn't be saying this crap. Hold up.
Choice. But if that were not the case, and I crumbled under the onslaught and turned traitor on truth for the sake of protecting myself, I would be a worse villain in this story than any individual trans militant. Because, as I said in the original tweet, the cowards are the ones who got us into this mess. Why is that? Well, because there were never enough, and still are not enough, trans militants to forcibly drag our society into the mass epidemic of madness that we're currently experiencing. They can't do it on their own without our consent. As much as they would like to, as much as they're trying to, they can't.
Our society is full of madness, but that's the assholes ruining it for the trans community, not the whole community as a whole, dude.
For this to happen, it has required and will continue to require the acquiescence of countless people who know better, who know the truth, but implicitly, or in many cases explicitly, renounce and disavow that knowledge in order to preserve their own comfort and their own safety. But most of the time, it's just their own comfort, because most of the time their safety is not really in jeopardy. Sometimes it is.
Women have it a lot harder than you realize, bud. Not trying to be a white knight or a simp, but you know what I'm saying? You don't realize. Women and men do not realize how hard each other have it, because women and men are put higher expectations and different standards. You know, in a society that coddles women, of course they're going to be used to it. So any sort of ideology that challenges them, you know. Whereas men, we're not coddled in society, because testosterone typically makes you stronger than being a woman. They automatically expect you to be tougher. So men, we do not get coddled in our society. If we get a little boo-boo on our knee, we get told, rub some dirt in it, you little pussy, and suck it up.
Most cases, it's not. You know, I really don't think that anyone was going to go kill Macy Gray because of a 1 minute conversation she had on Piers Morgan. I wouldn't put.
The world we live in is a fucked off place. You know, I'm a fan of Piers Morgan. That's what's up. But that's beside the point. Like, you know what I'm saying, YouTube? That's beside the fucking point. You don't know. Like, look at J.K. Rowling, you know? She tried sticking up for women and trans issues at the same time, but it got taken as her being some kind of bigot, and she got death threats for it. So, you know, you don't know, and thankfully that woman on Piers Morgan hasn't had threats, but still. I tend to think if you're threatening someone's life because you disagree with what they say, that person got to you, dude. Hard. They're living rent free in your goddamn head. I'll say it again. As long as you ain't a sick fuck, who gives a shit? Ugh, I want to need a cigarette after watching this.
Past these people, but I really doubt that was going to happen. What she was trying to protect was her financial security and just her comfort. And really, she just wanted to get along with her Hollywood friends and her friends in the music industry. And that's what she was trying to protect.
Or maybe she genuinely that, and maybe she genuinely educated herself. Like, here you are assuming shit just because. I mean, that's part of it because I did say that earlier in this video, but the other half could be because, you know,
Every time a coward collapses like this, betraying,
it's not cowardly, it's educating yourself. And this is why people will forever remain blissfully ignorant because people like you call them cowards for, you know, having a conversation with fellow adults and being like, okay, well, explain your side of the story so I can better understand your perspective. Nope, you're a fucking coward for doing it. Like, really?
selves and all the rest of us on the team common, on team common sense, when we are betrayed in this way, as we are so often, they only make it that much harder for whoever the mob turns its sights on next.
Ugh, fuck it. There you go, a little hair of the dog. Finished off my drink from last night. What time is it? Yeah, 12, almost 1 o'clock. Yeah, I'm good on alcohol until 5 o'clock. Just to settle my stomach and, but so I will agree with Matt Walsh on that respect. Like, yeah, part of it is so she can get along with her Hollywood friends and protect her music and her money and her interests and her career and all that. But the other half is probably because she got educated. Uh,
It's not a victimless crime here. The mob is emboldened and fueled by every person who sells their souls to it. They are vultures who feed on the dignity that you abandon and leave on the floor. They feast on your subservience and your submission and your self-debasement.
would you be saying this, Matt Walsh, if you identified as a female and you were trans? No, of course not. If the shoe was on the other foot, dude, you'd be singing a different tune.
The only way to stop them is to starve them of this fuel.
Oh my God. The only way to stop this is to have, like you said, Matt, common sense. Okay? That just because you identify as the opposite sex doesn't mean you get to identify as a goddamn tree. Because now we're going to have this conversation like, oh, you identify as a tree, and now people are going to get pissed off because you called them the wrong tree. It's like, how's it going, palm tree? Excuse me? Oh God, here it comes. They do not identify as a palm tree. They identify as a goddamn maple tree. And how dare you mispronounce their pronouns? And it's like, dude, overly sensitive pussies when it comes to that crap are the reason why trans people have it hard sometimes. Because not everyone from LGBTQ are super sensitive about their pronouns, but the overly sensitive crybabies that do that crap make them look bad, and it's just a shit show, dude. Even though it kind of feels like pronouns are like, a self-given nickname, but I digress. As long as you ain't a sicko, I'll call you by your preferred pronouns. As long as you ain't a sick fuck, I'll call you by your preferred pronouns. And I'm not trying to be a dick about this, but it's the truth. Calling yourself an it, that's your pronoun, they, them, it. To me, it just sounds a bit dehumanizing.
Is to look them in the eyes and say, no, I apologize for nothing. I am right. You are wrong.
That sounds so fucking childish, dude. Like, no, you're wrong. You're stupid. No, you're wrong. You're stupid. Jesus Christ. This is why we have so many problems in our fucking world. You know, it's like on the grander scheme of things, who fucking gives a fucking rat's ass if a dude identifies as a chick, or if they, them identify as a non-binary? How does it personally affect you? Are they going out of their way to bully you because you're cisgendered and straight? And if they are, then they're the world's biggest hypocrites when they ask for acceptance and tolerance, but that's kind of beside the point.
Now go scream about it some more, you damned hobgoblins. I don't care. They don't scare me. And laugh.
Well, obviously you care, otherwise you wouldn't have made a whole, how long is this video? 15 minutes and 51 seconds. Obviously you care, otherwise you wouldn't have made a video about it.
My face. That's how you handle it. Anything less than that, and you're part of the problem. Well, I hope you enjoyed that clip from Matt Walsh Show. If you did, be sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel and click the notification button to get more content like this. If you want to watch or listen to the...
See, Matt Walsh is kind of a hypocrite in the sense of, you're calling J.K. Rowling wrong after she went off on Twitter talking about all the horrible crap she went through because she dared try to stand up for both women and trans women's rights. And she got so much backlash and hatred. And it's like, wait a minute. If trans people want equality, then how come we're not allowed to stand up for cisgendered rights too? Then it's not equal, is it? I'm just saying.
Show, head to dailywire.com and subscribe today. You can also listen to my podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Oh my fucking God, that was exhausting. I'm sure Matt Walsh doesn't really give a shit, but I had to unsubscribe from his channel after that. Like, I couldn't take it, dude. It was just sitting there like, oh my God, dude, this guy is so fucking... The problem with being an independent, honestly, is that I see both sides of the perspective on a lot of shit. And the political spectrum is just full of so many goddamn idiots. But anyways, YouTube, I'll catch you later. Thanks for watching.